Hey everyone, welcome to StoryThread HQ. We're going to dive right into the topic today. We're going to talk about the 10 challenges that businesses face in their marketing. So let's jump right in. Number one is a lack of clear goals and objectives.
Right. So lack of clear goals and objectives for any business. Obviously, when you're starting to work through putting together a marketing plan, a lot of people throw things on the wall, see what sticks. And that's never a good strategy. You need to have defined KPIs, things that you want to strive towards. But even just having a basic layout for what you want to accomplish is really, really important, and making it something that is achievable at your level.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're storytellers. We tend to approach things like storytellers. And so for us, when I see businesses struggle with clarity in goals or objectives, it sort of comes down to, what is that story you want to tell?
Yeah.
So that can vary based on maybe it's your holistic brand, or maybe it's a specific campaign for a specific product or service.
Exactly.
So I think it's sort of on the front end, before you just throw a bunch of money at a target and see what sticks, it's sort of like define what is that story you're trying to tell, and where does that fit in even in the larger narrative of your company.
Yep.
And that can often be a good check to say, hey, are we on track, off track?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Oftentimes you want to figure out what is your cost of acquisition depending on your customer. Yeah. So every industry is going to be different. Every industry is going to have a different cost for essentially getting the work, right? Getting the work. Who's coming through the door? How much does it cost for you to sell the product? So you have to look at that as part of your budget, but as part of your goals, which leads us into, question number 2.
That's good. Yeah. And number 2 is limited budget.
Yeah.
And I think businesses often think like, okay, well, if I'm going to really jump into this marketing game, then that means that I have to spend a ton of money to get it done.
Absolutely. One of the things that we dealt with a particular client is their student acquisition costs. And obviously, as a small business begins to ramp up, you're looking at the sweat equity and ad spend that you might get yourself into. And a lot of times people will go a little too reserved. And so oftentimes they get disappointed because they went too reserved. But we can honestly say that no matter what budget that you're sticking to, you have a budget in mind. And then you basically need to look at the strategies that go into that budget, because it may not be a place for you to do, digital ads. That might not be the best place to spend your money.
Well, and I think that's an important point too, is if you are a business feeling like you have a limited budget and you can't put a lot towards marketing, I think that's where creativity can shine.
100%.
Because some of the best ads we've seen, of course, out there are like $0 ads, right? Or, it's someone with a cell phone and it, happens to take off, go viral, whatever it may be. But I think to not look at that as a constraint, to say, well, we don't have money to spend on digital ads or this big campaign or something even in the traditional marketing world, but more like, okay, here's an opportunity to be creative, think outside the box, and use the limited means that you may have to do something clever and memorable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Challenge number 3 is insufficient data and analytics.
So with every aspect of your marketing, you need to be able to get feedback. Without feedback, you are going to continue to stumble through the dark. You really look at your data as a flashlight. You look at, there's a lot of free resources that you could utilize today, but knowing how to use those resources is really important. So getting yourself a team that works with you to make sure that happens. If you have an in-house person that works with you and helping them understand the tools that are available for you, it's super important that you focus on that, because what you will end up doing is discovering, even through the creative content that you utilize, what works, what doesn't, what is the brand messaging that you're using, what works, what doesn't. If you're confusing, those are kind of the litmus test to see where are your best efforts actually gaining traction. Because you could put a lot of time and effort into creating your own content, or even hiring a company to do your content creation without clear defined roles and objectives. And that's going to end up leading you down a path, even bad messaging. And they put such effort and time into creating content, spend thousands of dollars on content that ends up going because they were saying the wrong thing.
Yeah. I mean, the data, the analytics is a huge piece for feedback. And that can steer you in a really good direction if you take the time to understand some of the numbers that are happening behind the scenes, or at least seek out help to have someone help you understand what the numbers mean and what they could be pointing to, because that is an area that is often, I think, overlooked initially because they're thinking of just the end product or what a user sees or something on the front end. But those little details on the back end can be super informative.
Absolutely.
All right, challenge number 4 is inconsistent branding and messaging. And this is a big one. This is a big challenge that we see companies needing to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like, your pitch becomes the afterthought. Or you have this great idea, you're taking a shower one day and all of a sudden it comes to you and you're like, oh, this is the new pitch. And it's totally different than your tagline or whatever's on your website, or, what's on your papers that you use for all your marketing tools. And then all of a sudden you start shifting away from your normal language, and now you're getting confusing. And that to me is one of those areas. Consistency is key no matter what. Yeah. And I will say this too, when it comes to consistency, we look at your methodology as well. I see too many people jump from one thing to the next thing. Oh, it's SEO this week. Oh, it's ads this week. Oh, it's, we need to have drip campaigns. Oh, the drip campaigns didn't work the way we expected, so we're going to shift over here. And they're hopping around from place to place to place, or tool to tool to tool, without any kind of, you got to give it time. Test and measure, we say in the industry a lot. But that's the reality of it. And marketing is not a silver bullet. You have to actually determine what is the tool that is going to connect to your customer. For people that are selling digital products or selling physical products online, they're going to be utilizing a lot of lead magnets, PDF forms, things like that, that drive people to engagement on some level, right? And they don't give it the time, which would be different than someone who's, let's say, looking for a contractor. Oftentimes, contractors, the way they get business is by reputation, building a reputation, word of mouth. Yeah. But when there's this continuous jumping from one thing to the next, or a lack of clarity in their language, you end up, you develop a Frankenstein business.
Yeah.
And people don't know, you confuse the people that you're trying to reach. And so you want to stay true to your main why. Why is it that you're doing what you're doing? What was the reason why you got into the business in the first place? You want to have an aspect of this is my thing. This is how I get my clients. And, there's too many people throwing out really great practices, jumping into AI and hoping that that's going to solve their problem. Like AI consultants and AI sales, machines and all of these things, which can be cool. It takes a lot of time, a ton of time, to develop those things.
That's a good point you just made. If you find yourself as a business jumping from tool to tool to try to solve something specific,
right,
I would say that's an indication of something deeper.
Absolutely.
We have a tool as StoryThread that we help businesses clarify their business story, right? Who they are, why they're doing what they're doing, and putting that in a narrative that is attractive and engaging for their customers.
Exactly.
And if you find yourself jumping from one shiny red ball to the next, it might be an indication that, hey, I got to get some things clarified internally. Because we've been a part of organizations where it felt like there was a new message, a new thing every single month even.
Yeah, I was going to say weekend.
And it's really difficult to feel like you can get confidence in that and gain traction, because the second you feel like you finally understood something, you're on to the next thing.
Totally.
And I think a lot of businesses do that because they're looking for that magic pill.
Yeah.
But really, it's just an indication that, hey, I got to get my own story clarified first, and then I can keep that consistency up.
Yeah.
And because then you know how to apply that story in all these different channels.
Totally.
Another challenge that businesses have is building trust and credibility with their customers. I think they oftentimes just don't know where to start with that.
Yeah.
Like what that means. They have their thing, they do their business, but they don't necessarily know how to intentionally build that trust and credibility.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know Google reviews are massive. And what we have found is that depending on how you develop that trust, it's actually community. Everything things are relational and built on community. Even if you're selling a product, right? A product where your face is never shown on your website, but your product is out in the open, right? You're selling things, whether it's a tangible or an intangible, like an investment portfolio service, something like that. You can sell these types of products, but you have to develop trust through that. When you're doing that, the people that are buying are actually helping develop that trust, right? It's the reviews. It's like there's always going to be someone that will be like, oh, I'll give you a chance, right? I'll give you a chance. And then taking that experience, and this comes down to every product produces an experience, bad or good, right? Every product. But as a business, you are wanting to engage your customers to not only have the experience, but to share that experience with others. So be intentional about asking people to leave reviews. Ask people to give you testimonials. I mean, this is like 101, right? But the reality is that a lot of businesses fail to do this.
Yeah.
They fail to take the time. They're too busy in their craft. Totally understandable. One of the things in building a business is that you actually have to develop the marketing side of your business to have a business. Because here's the deal. Marketing is purely strategic presence.
Yeah.
That's all it is. A lot of times people go, oh, I got to have there are definitely things that you have to do in your marketing to be smart in your marketing. But let's just say that we need to make sure that we are, as business owners, we are involving the community that's engaging in this relationship to be also out there expressing that trust that they have in you with others.
Well, I think that's a big point. I think it's, as a business, looking for those moments of connection.
Yep.
Right? Because people want to see the humanity behind the product or service or the company that they may be doing business with. And so I think looking strategically, like you said, for those touch points to have with potential customers humanizes you, which is a good thing. And you can build that trust and relationship from these moments of connection. And so I think it's things to not steer away from, but to say, hey, beyond what our product or service is, how am I having those moments of connection with our community, with our customer, right?
Definitely.
So maybe that's more social media stuff, social engagement stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be digital either. It could be you being a part of your town's, festivals and parades or whatever it may be. And just being out in the community, building relationships face to face. Or it could be a social media post. It could be posting a testimonial from a customer or creating a PDF that is just value for your audience because it's information they need. All right, another challenge that businesses need to overcome is ineffective content creation. And in this digital age, it's a big one.
There's a lot of it out there.
There's a lot of it. Yeah.
A lot of garbage.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I think that is something to not ignore.
Yeah.
Because we live in a world now where most people are just glued to their phones, their devices, to screens.
Yeah.
And so that's where they tend to experience our businesses.
Yeah.
And so if we are producing content that does not hit the mark, that is not relevant to them, that is maybe poor quality,
Right.
Or, 1,000 other things, that's something that's going to hinder growth.
Totally over scripted. Like reading scripts while you're recording, things like that, they could see past it. I understand people need to use teleprompters here and there, but it is one of those things where you need to be real and authentic in your communication, whether it be through video or audio, even the type of content that you put on your website, whether it's a photograph. Don't keep buying stock photos. Don't keep using things that everybody else uses. Like when you go to a website, you see the same photo used on the header that another company just used, and you're like, wait a second, like I've seen that somewhere before, right?
And I think that's actually a great point, because what makes the content ineffective, right?
Yeah.
Now we look at it, and I think there is another myth there, which is like, hey, well, if I do any sort of video stuff, I need to hire a production team, and it needs to, fancy cameras, lighting, the works. Now, is that true in some cases? Probably. But is that true in every case? No. And I think that's where like the nuance comes into play, is understanding what is the purpose of this piece of content.
Totally. Know
your audience, because there is a audience today that is like very okay with the use of a cell phone kind of selfie style video, right?
Absolutely.
There is a generation that thinks that is poor quality, right? There's a generation that wants a higher, a more highly produced end result in their product placements and in their infomercials and all that stuff, to appear like that's the right quality. So it depends on really knowing your audience and knowing who you are as a business and who you're trying to engage, to know, well, what might seem ineffective for one is actually being effective for another. So
absolutely,
it's not just, again, throwing a bunch of stuff and seeing what sticks. It's having some idea of your messaging, your audience, who you are as a brand, to make those right decisions. But I think ultimately the proof will be in the analytics again.
Yeah, totally.
If it's not resonating, you'll see that in the numbers.
Right. Often a good story will resonate.
Yep.
A good story will always resonate, and you can get away with bad quality video, not bad quality audio though. That's just a pro tip there. If your audio stinks, you lost them. Yeah. People could be like, okay, I could look away from your terrible video. But the audio is super, super important to focus on. But at some point in your business, you have to transition from low quality to high quality. The closer you get to your brand and your brand identity, the higher quality video you need. And that will also reflect on what you're charging for your product as well.
Yeah.
If you charge $70,000 for your product, you better get yourself a really good production team. Put something together that is respectable if someone's going to be dropping that kind of money, on your product.
I think that's a perfect segue too, to remind everyone watching that we also sell a product on how to create that story for your brand, to bring that clarity, to create something that's engaging for your customers. And it's something that can be then utilized in every aspect, all marketing channels, and used over and over again. So if that's something that you're like, oh man, I need help in developing that story, we have a product that we can help you with. So
yeah, that's great.
The next challenge, number 7, is a resistance to change. And we have been seeing a lot of this over the last probably decade, right?
Yep. Oftentimes, business leaders, they are focused on building their business and they don't want to think about adopting a new tactic or adopting a new mode of communication. And so there are different trends that happen within the social sphere. And it's important to be a risk taker. You are a risk taker by opening a business. You are a risk taker by getting yourself out there and providing a service that people pay you for, right? You developed your craft. And now it's like, okay, I thought, email was the only way to do it. And even though I love email, it doesn't always apply well to other industries. You got to, again, know the people you're talking to. Who's your audience? And change is important to embrace when it comes to, expanding on your presence. Again, I'll say it, marketing is strategic presence. So what are your strategies? You really should have 7 points of strategy for your marketing. We do help people along the lines of actually developing those seven points of marketing. And that will actually tie the story thread into those 7 points so that you can, 1, be creative. Number 2, tell a great story. Number 3, you have consistency in all your channels. Number 4, you pull people in through the different ways. Okay, speaking of change, you might have multiple ways that people could reach you. It may not be just through an email or a phone call. It could be through Facebook Messenger. It could be through TikTok, or it could be through WhatsApp. A lot of people are using WhatsApp now to maintain all their customer threads, right? And or through Go High Level or HubSpot, however which tools you use. But the important part is like you need to embrace change as a part of your marketing, especially when you begin to see that certain areas where you used to have the results begin to change as the industry changes or the community, the culture changes. We have a saying within our industry is like to know your competitors well. Yeah. Know your competitors really, really well. Like know what areas are they growing in. And we have tools that we use to determine what channels are your competitors thriving in. And then you learn to take over. You learn how to build your SEO strategy to outrank your competitors. Right. Let someone else invest, and then you take advantage of. Yeah, that's smart.
Well, and we've there's this saying from the church world that I actually think it relates really well to the business world, and it's this idea of the message doesn't change, but the method does.
Yes, 100%.
And I think that sometimes there's a resistance to that because a business owner may be thinking like, well, I have to now reinvent the wheel again. And it's that's not quite the case, right? Your message as a brand doesn't need to change, but how you communicate that message should. Yeah. Because that's going to give you it's going to lay the groundwork for you to be the most successful then with that messaging, because it's going to make a better impact than if you resist that change and say, well, this worked 10 years ago.
Right.
Well, that audience is not your audience anymore.
Right.
So
exactly.
Your message doesn't have to change, but I think the method should.
Absolutely.
Another challenge that businesses need to overcome is lack of internal alignment.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
So let's just break it down to small team, large team, doesn't matter. If your team or your employees if they don't know the pitch, if they don't know the why behind what you're doing, if they don't know your story, your team is actually going to effectively be splintering your sales. Right. People are going to come in with false expectations. Yeah. You're going to get strange situations where customers are not happy because they were sold on something that really wasn't the end goal, right? It wasn't what you were thinking as a leader. So making sure that they know the why, that they know the story behind your product, behind you as a business, why you're in business.
Right.
I think is really, really important.
No, but it's like it's like what we tell a lot of the businesses that we work with, which is clarity creates confidence.
Totally.
Right? And that is just as important on the inside as it is the outside. Like we were talking about earlier, we've worked for businesses before that it seemed like every month there was a new thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's feeling disjointed or unclear on the inside, I can guarantee it's feeling disjointed and unclear on the outside.
Absolutely.
I think that's an important thing to remember. The more you have that solidified and clarified, your story on the inside, your customer can experience that clarity, and that confidence really shows through.
Right. And that actually will relate to your entire team. Your entire team becomes extensions of your marketing. Yeah, I've actually seen some really great businesses like increase by 20% just by empowering their employees in the discussions and the type of conversations that they have. If they know the reason why and they know the story thread that you have developed for your business, then they're going to have more confidence in your business as a whole. And it's going to translate into the conversations that they have around the dinner table, having friends over, and they're talking about, oh, what is it that you do? And that's going to equate to, again, when we talk about trust increases because everybody's on the same page, consistency across the board. Yeah. And you're also going to find that, again, you're using word of mouth marketing to increase your bottom line. These are all the cylinders that need to be firing in your business. And a lot of times people forget that. They look at the external aspects of marketing and they don't look at your internal aspect of marketing.
Right. Absolutely. Another challenge is, and we see this a lot, it's just this limited marketing expertise.
Yep.
Right. And that's something that some way, somehow they're going to, as a business, you're going to want to overcome that challenge, whether that's hiring an agency like us to help you walk that whole process out.
Yeah.
Or having your internal teams, be capable of overcoming that obstacle.
Exactly. Everybody has an area to grow. And that's one of the areas that I think it's important whether you're a small business, small team, or solopreneur, actually. Solopreneurs actually need this the most because you can't do all the things. Right. We have been there. You need to get to the place where you can trust someone to do it with you. And when we look at clients, we don't look at clients like, oh, you're just another account. No, we're actually business partners with you in that space. We learn your product, we learn your language, we learn your why, we learn and take that information through our product and then turn that into something that then you can implement into your 7 areas of strategy. But we're going to work with you like a partner would in developing your business, and that could also work along with your marketing team. And sometimes your marketing teams are like, we just need some fresh gas here, guys. Yeah. And so bringing us on or bringing on another marketing team to work alongside your marketing team is really, really helpful. Sometimes your marketing team is a one-guy deal. That's a reality.
Yeah.
If for a lot of businesses.
Yeah. No, that's so important because another benefit is it's like marketing is often like such an umbrella term, right? Totally. And so it is something that businesses know they need, but it's like, oh my goodness, it's such a broad world that it's like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to put a strategy together, all those things. So like you said, bringing someone into the fold and having them help you out in those areas, that's when the ROI shoots up, right?
Exactly.
Because you're going to need to spend some money in this area, but instead of just shots in the dark, right, you're working with the team to say, no, like point the gun over here. You're going to get results in this area, or implement this strategy and it can lead to X, Y, Z. And I think that's where the smart money comes into play.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of times we get stuck in the emotion of our business, and you need to have an external perspective to come in. Someone that is not deeply deeply connected to the inside of your business, that they can have an objective perspective of how to market your business. And that way you're not missing opportunities. And oftentimes we can be very deeply emotional about the things that we do. So
absolutely. And the final challenge we want to talk about today is having a plan.
Yes.
A strategic plan.
Yeah, it's really, really important. Just like we talked about with knowing your objectives, it's not enough to just know your objectives, but it's actually a plan to execute that will tie in all of the creativity, all of your messaging, right, all of the things that need to take place in order for you to be clear and be consistent across all your marketing channels. Again, it's not enough to have one channel. You have to have at least 7 channels that are working in tandem to pull people in from all different areas.
I like to think of it like this, like if you're cooking a meal, right? When we're talking about our 7-point strategy, right? So like, can you eat a meal of just chicken? Yes. Can you eat a meal of just rice? Yes. Just vegetables? Yes. Can you eat a meal that's just bread? Yes, you can. But if you want to present someone a holistic, satisfying, healthy meal, then you're going to want to have something that has multiple ingredients, but it's all for the same meal, right? Absolutely. So you're going to have your protein, you're going to have your vegetables, you're going to have your carbohydrates, whatever. But you're going to create that balanced diet, that balanced meal, and that's going to be the most satisfying for the customer. So that's why we talk about having a 7-point strategy, is because if you're just hard focusing on one thing, like, yes, you can just do that one thing, of course, and that one thing is probably better than nothing.
Sure.
At the same time, as you add in more of those elements, that meal becomes more well-rounded, more satisfying.
Yeah, and people actually will see you and your approach. They're going to say, oh, I saw you on Facebook, but I also saw you on a blog. Let me get back to this idea about the net, the fishing net. It's like a fishing net. So you have a bunch of knots in a net. If you don't have the knots that kind of create that connection point, then things are just going to slip right through your fingers. You're going to have customers that just slip right through, and you're not actually capturing the big fish.
What would your advice be maybe to someone who's watching and knows now, okay, you're right, I'm convinced I need a 7-point strategy in my marketing, but again, it's like, am I just Google searching things? How does this happen?
Am I asking ChatGPT? The reality,
don't use AI.
Don't use it.
It's not there yet.
It's not. It can provide some insights, but it's just copy pasting. It's whatever is going in is going out, and a lot of the trade secrets are not being put out there. So you really do need to get connected to a marketing company that can give experience, not just online regurgitated, from all these different books. Like you got to be careful of the books you read too, because there's a lot of regurgitated stuff. Yeah. But whether or not it's common practice to do certain things in the marketing world, you need to have people that are experienced to work with you, so that you could develop a smart 7-point strategy for your business. That is specifically for your business. If you're a seamstress, you don't want to do the same kind of marketing that a plumber or a programmer does, right? You want to have a different area. You're going to be focusing on different strategies within the tool sets that are available. And so you can, check us out, go to our website, contact us, comment in the section below, hey, I'm interested in learning more about you guys. That's all good. We want to make sure that you guys have what you need, because this world is constantly evolving and changing. And the digital platforms are constantly changing with every algorithm shift. It's keeping us busy. I know it's keeping a lot of people busy, but we want to make sure that you have a very good understanding of like big picture. What do I do to market my business? This is where we could start these conversations.
Yeah. So guys, those are the 10 challenges that businesses are facing in their marketing right now. Again, we thank you so much for listening. If you want to check us out, head to our website. We'd love to help your business create that story to engage with your customers. And we'll see you next time.